Have accent walls died and gone to heaven? That's what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of you have reached out to me personally and said,
James, what about accent walls? Are we tired of them? Are they overplayed? Are they done?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the traditional accent wall where you just have a darker color arbitrarily on a wall to make your room more interesting, maybe that has sort of died. But I stumbled upon an article that really showcases what you can do with accent walls, the near limitless options you have, 25 accent wall ideas for every space in your home. Really great article. I want to quickly go through a bunch of these with you because it might open your mind, broaden your horizons a little bit. And before we do, just letting you know, I still enjoy accent walls because they give you a lot of versatility and flexibility in your design. You're just isolating one section of the room to design, which means if you want to switch it up in a couple years, you're only redesigning one wall technically, not the whole room. So that's a nice aspect of accent walls that I still enjoy. So the first one is add texture with molding. And in the example they use here is really cool molding. So you have these diagonal lines, this sort of triangular visualization, but you have these circles in the middle of each one. They look like hockey pucks or something, but really interesting, a lot more different than your traditional boxed out wainscoting and chair railings. What I love that they're doing here is they're painting the molding the same color as the wall. So that gives you a little more of a subtle, understated look rather than accenting things with nice white molding in the middle of a much darker color. A bit too contrasty for me, a little more traditional, I would say. One color all the way. And if it's darker, you can even continue that onto your baseboards and your crown molding for even more of a streamlined look. Even continue it onto the ceiling. Why not? Next up is wood paneling. This is a very, very common one I see all the time. You can use real wood. You can use engineered hardwood. You can get wallpaper that has wood printed on it. What's really nice though is there's a cohesive look in this example they have here in the article. You can see that the wood is also part of the bed. Some throw blankets on top. The pillows, they really coordinate well with that sort of charcoal gray dark panel up top near the ceiling. And even the little side tables, it all works together. So that's fun. Wood is very on brand for today. Organic materials, warm, cozy, earthy, a bit rustic. Very nice. You can do a focal piece. You can do a little mural, a little decal. You don't have to think of accent walls as the entire wall. It can just be a part of it in the form of a nice little design. And another great benefit is it's not going to take up too much wall space. It's not going to feel completely different from the rest of the space. It's almost an alternative to a piece of art you would just put on the wall. The wall becomes the piece of art. You can also take this a step further and combine two of these aspects together into a framed mural. So you can use the woodwork, the wainscoting, to sort of frame a piece of artwork, whether it's a mural or a really beautiful piece of wallpaper you can put within the frame in the wall. So it's part of the architecture, it's part of your room, but it looks like just a really beautiful big piece of artwork. So that's a really fun way of doing things as well. Of course, you can go with tiled accent walls. You can go with your traditional tiles like your marble and your granite and ceramic and all that, or you can use cork tiles in this example. Really fun. I don't know if I would put cork tiles in a bathroom just because of moisture and all that, but visually, I think it looks really interesting. I'm a big fan of two-tone accent walls, so using nice frog tape, really good quality painter's tape to create that separation down the middle, and not necessarily in the places that you might expect where it's separated by a chair rail. It can just be literally right down the drywall, or even a 2/3, 1/3 sort of split. This one's even cutting right through the woodwork in a really dynamic way. This is fun because you can go with a darker color, but the room itself isn't going to feel overly dark because half of the walls or even more can still be that lighter color that continues on into your ceiling. Gives you more options, but it's still a very striking look that I really enjoy. There are also a lot of different ways you could incorporate wood slat walls. You can have just your vertical, horizontal. I like angled, especially in this example, right behind the headboard. This is such a cool look to me. It is a very simplistic bedroom setup for the most part. A lot of lights coming in. We're letting the outsides in, the nature aspect. Wood is a great way to do that. The leading lines of those wood planks kind of pointing up towards the ceiling makes the space look a bit bigger, and it really accentuates that beautiful, clean, streamlined white bed. So you have that nice bit of contrast to allow it to pop off. Really well done. And of course, with wood, you can customize things a little bit with stain. So you can use different stain colors to really dial in what kind of coloration you want in that wood while still keeping it very naturalistic, which I'm a huge fan of. You can also play around with small smaller accent walls in very specific areas, like little niches within your house, or namely your kitchen, like this little kitchen nook. Really great way to just add some visual pop to an otherwise kind of uninteresting, underutilized visual space. That little nook becomes your canvas. So now instead of having just the wall color or maybe continuing the cabinet color onto that panel, you go with a mural. And you can do this with an artist if you know someone who actually can do it themselves. You can do it yourself as well, or wallpaper is always a great option too. If you want something really nice and you don't have the time or the money or the expertise to really do it yourself, you can always order a single roll of wallpaper or even check the clearance bin at your local paint store to see if they have any just rolls hanging around, and use that to really spice up those areas of your home where you have niches and nooks. But if you do want to try things out, there's this really great black and white DIY sort of approach, and someone literally just painted their walls black, took white paint, and then made this little repeating design. And what's awesome and charming about it is it kind of looks DIY. It doesn't look overly manicured and professional and precise. It looks like someone did it themselves, which really adds to the charm of the whole room and the space. It just adds a nice, cozy, accessible, relatable vibe, which I really enjoy. And also it's nice that you still have that continuity of the black walls, but it's broken up in a nice way with those little white splotches here and there. And if you're so bold, you can maybe team up with one of your kids and they can help you as well. Just, don't be too hard on them, okay? So of course you can always go with a wallpaper accent wall. Much easier and much less daunting to just do the one wall rather than wallpaper an entire room, especially in a larger bedroom, because it can be a tedious process, also quite messy to both put it up and then take it down afterwards if you don't like it. What you can explore too with wallpaper is textured wallpapers and also themed wallpapers that are maybe emblematic of you and your lifestyle. There's a really great example here of map wallpaper, which is very thematic, of course, but if you're someone that loves to travel, so much so that you want to literally plaster it on your walls, that's kind of a fun little thing to do in your bedroom. Because bedrooms typically are more personal spaces that should be reflective of your personality, because that's your domain or whoever's living in that bedroom at the time. And then when you are going with those wallpapers as your accent wall, think about the colors within that wallpaper, and then you can use that to sort of carry over to your walls. In this example, they picked a teal that was pretty similar, and they even have a color on the ceiling too. You don't necessarily need to match the exact color within the wallpaper. Sometimes that might be easier to do with some people. You can also extract one of the lighter colors or a contrasting color within the wallpaper to then use on your walls as well, just so you have a bit of a back and forth. Or you can just sort of stay within the same family of colors and just make sure that they look good together. You just look at them together, the paint color, the wallpaper, make sure they're vibing with you. If you're a fan of math and geometry, just continuing that sort of mural thing we talked about earlier, this one is more geometric, so you can explore different shapes. As opposed to painting the wall, you just have this beautiful semicircle with a bit of a pie cut out of it and a square with the same sort of color scheme. So there's some fun things you can do with a bit of tape, maybe a steady hand with a paintbrush. And then it just allows you to incorporate a little bit of interest, a little bit of color without committing to the entire wall. Very fun. And if you're having a lot of fun with that tape, you can have bolder patterns painted on. You can go with color blocking, for some very dynamic looks. And I think a good recommendation in the article is if that is the case, if you're going with those bright, bold colors, maybe make the rest of the room a bit more toned down, the furniture a little bit more pastel or even grayscale, off-whites, neutrals. So the accent wall really becomes accentuated, which I guess is kind of the point, right? You can also have functional accent walls. You can have accent walls that incorporate whiteboard paint or even chalkboard paint. So you can draw on those walls, write little notes, maybe shopping lists, and then remove them afterwards. This is great in areas like kitchens, of course, but offices, studies, playrooms, things of that nature. So you can add a really usable element to your accent wall rather than just a design thing purely. And a little bonus one that I have here is you can have another functional aspect of something accentuating on your wall, and that's acoustic paneling. I love these things. You can get them in large squares, rectangles. You can get them in little hexagons as well and place them on the walls in a really fun, unique way. With all those geometric shapes, you can do tons of stuff. But what they can do is they can just help with the sound of the space. So you won't have as much crazy echo and weird reverberations. So that's something that I've done in this studio from a practical element, but also they can look pretty stylish too. So it's another fun little bonus tip. Your bread and butter, of course, is painted accent walls. And we talked about them in this video here with Natic Painting. Natalie, she's a huge fan of accent walls and she has a lot of really important insight on the topic.